So officially now, welcome to the New York University Alumni Association's 2015 Alumni Awards. We come together today to celebrate the outstanding achievements of 5 of our graduates who exemplify the exceptional caliber of NYU alumni. And you know, because many of you are that exceptional caliber. But first, I'd like to reflect on who is in our audience today. The people gathered here reflect the diversity and the breadth of our university community, alumni and students, faculty and trustees, deans, administrators, and many friends. So I want to acknowledge several groups of people. We are thrilled to have a number of the greatest supporters of the university, NYU trustees, who are in attendance today. Please stand so we may acknowledge you, trustees. I want to extend a personal welcome and a personal thank you. I believe this may be the biggest attendance that we've ever had for an awards luncheon. We have over 400 people here. And a great deal of the credit for that goes to a really growing partnership and what I call NYU, the one NYU. Today, about 10 deans have purchased tables to demonstrate that they and their faculty are part of one NYU and really support the Alumni Association's effort today. So will you faculty and deans please stand? Your hosts today are the board members of the NYU Alumni Association. The association is the heart of your alumni community, not only here in New York or even in the US, but in 30 locations all over the world, on every continent. Will my terrific colleagues, the members of the board of the NYUAA, please stand? We are joined today by some members of the best and the brightest of our student body. These include our Student Senators Council, the 1831 Fund Committee, the Men's Glee Club, and other student representatives. So our students, will you stand? NYU is all about you. Each year, the university faces a real challenge to select the honorees from the university's nearly 500,000 graduates. That's the living graduates. I would like to especially thank the co-chairs of the association's award committee, Rena Brand and Heather Kennedy, and the awards committee members for taking on this tremendous challenge. Please stand so that we can recognize your good work. And now I have a real treat. I have the opportunity to introduce New York University's 15th president. During his 13-year tenure, President John Sexton has provided nothing less than transformative and visionary leadership to our beloved alma mater. Under John Sexton's guidance, NYU has made a remarkable ascent, emerging as a leader on the global academic stage. Our university was just ranked in the New York Times Education World, not national, World Reputation Rankings. We ranked as the 20th ranked university in the world. This represents rising 7 spots since 2014 alone. We have risen 30 spots in those rankings since 2011. I mean, we're on a tear. We're unbeatable. This is certainly a testament to President Sexton's extraordinary effectiveness, and no less to his devotion. Let me give you some wow about NYU. Since President Sexton assumed the presidency in 2002, the university has doubled its applicants for freshman admission. We all always say to each other, I could never get in now. Since 2002, we have more than doubled the financial aid budget. We have improved student diversity, expanded, and this is particularly incredible, expanded the tenured and tenure-track faculty, launched cutting-edge areas of scholarly inquiry, grown our international stature, opened new campuses abroad, and the whole time, under John Sexton's capable leadership, we have tripled our endowment. What do you say? He will complete his term as our president. This is his last awards luncheon as presiding president at the conclusion of 2015. And I can say, I think for all of us, John, that we're just watching for the encore. President John Sexton, on behalf of our entire alumni community, thank you for all that you have done for NYU and to bring so much esteem to all of us. Your years, not only as president, but as a teacher, as a dean, have had an enormously positive and meaningful impact on the story of NYU and on the lives of those who are lucky enough to call NYU home. You will always know that you leave us in a much better place than you found us. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome John Sexton, our 15th president.
Thank you very much. Thank you. I appreciate that very much. This was going to be emotional for me even before that introduction, because I'm very, very conscious. Most of you know I have a PhD in religion, and I think of our university in the term of a community over time, which is what religions are at their base, really. They're communities of people over time. And I think if I've done anything, and I haven't done anything near what Bev ascribed to me, because that was done simply by unleashing the potency of our beloved NYU and its faculty and its students, led by the deans and a remarkable university team. And by telling a story of our university and what it is. I think I'm a good storyteller. So I think maybe what I did was notice what we are incarnate in the graduates of our university and in those that are there now making it the extraordinary place that it is. So when I come to an alumni event, I'm always very conscious of that story. I want you to focus for a moment upon the story of this room through that lens. So you look at a person like Ruth, down here to my left, and you realize, as I did, because I always try to encapsulate, what is the arc of NYU history? The arc of NYU history that's captured by the people in the room. Of course, the most interesting thing is to think about who the most senior person in the room is. And that's easy to do today. Because, we have 5 honorees in the room today. And I am here to tell you that Ruth graduated from Steinhardt more than a decade and a half before the next youngest of our honorees was born. Now just think about that for a second. Now our university is tiptoeing up to its 200th anniversary. Its 200th anniversary. It won't come for another couple of decades. But Ruth could tell the story of our university for more than half of its present history. So this is a remarkable thing. So in this room, I just have to say there is a lot else that makes it emotional for me. Just as I walked around the room, first of all, of course, I think the first person I encountered coming in was Bernie Monahan. Where are you, Bernie? And so Bernie Monahan, who's back there, just so they know you're real, stand up and then you can sit down. So Bernie Monahan, 147 Beach 136th Street, in the 1940s and the 1950s and the 1960s, before his family bought the house across the street from us, his stoop, and I'm using that word stoop. I want you all to understand the word stoop, and I want you to understand that when I talk the language, I talk it correctly, because next year at this lunch you're going to have to use the Rosetta Stone introduction to high English, right? A few of the security guards, because Andy, whom I know well and who's going to be spectacular, was in at school the last couple of days just to pay a visit. He's not coming till January, of course. But he and I are friends, and in fact, in a strange coincidence, his Malcolm and my Katie were college classmates and friends. But he was in, and as I was leaving the building last night after he had left, 5 of the security guards called me aside. They said, "We have to speak to you," and that's not usually a good thing. And I said, "What's the matter?" And they said, "Nothing's the matter, but this guy doesn't know that TALK is pronounced with a W." So they said, "You're going to have to teach him a Brooklyn accent." And I said to him, by the way, because this is, what I'm about to say to you now is a reality that I don't think has struck, a person like Carmen would know this immediately. But I'll bet you half the people in the room, like me, wouldn't have realized this, even if you knew it at some deep level, until I tell you. It's like knowing that there are 1 million camels in Australia. It's just things that you should know, but you don't. So I had actually given a speech at the University of Edinburgh about a year ago, and I got up to give the speech, and when they do an introduction of you in these 500-year-old universities, it's all done, in a very sacramental way. And I got up after this intoned, stentorian introduction, and I said, "Now all of you take your tape recorders out, even if you have to do it with your phones, because for the next hour," because I was giving a lecture, "for the next hour you're going to hear the language spoken the right way." And a week later, I was out, Carmen, I'm sure you've been there, at Gargiulo's in Coney Island to speak to 600 people. I'll point out Chuck Schumer only drew 450 the year before. So the drawing power of NYU, is even more potent than the Senate. But in any case, I'm out there to speak to the Brooklyn Chamber of Commerce. And I was going to use this Edinburgh opening. And I walked in, and there were only about 1 in 5 people in Brooklyn that talk the way I do now. The Caribbean islands, Russia, Central Europe, South Asia, the Brooklyn accent. You know, people should run to get tape recorders and lists of diphthongs so that this is preserved as you know, like the old Yiddish as the decades go on. But it's a wonderful thing if you think about it. And think about that in connection to NYU. But it wasn't just Bernie when I walked in the room. You know, Bev, who always likes to share, she's like an advertisement, yes, for NYU, yes, for our alumni, but most of all for Steinhardt. Let's make no mistake about it. And she says, I got to bring you over to meet one of your teachers. And Sonia, where are you? Stand up over there where you are. So she comes over and introduces me to Sonia Hamlin, who's a famous TV personality. But Steinhardt class of 45. Steinhardt class of 45. And she, quote, introduces me to Sonia Hamlin, close quote. And I look at her and I say, get away, get away. Ross Hamlin, Sonia's daughter, was the first boyfriend of Lisa Ellen Goldberg. And I've known Sonia Hamlin since Lisa came into my life and changed me. But most of all in this room, I want to thank the students, I want to thank those of you, but most of all, frankly, because my life has always been about students. When I come up to academic year 2016-17, I'll take my first sabbatical in 55 years of teaching. And it's a wonderfully timed sabbatical because my oldest grandchild will be moving between 8th and 9th grade. And she's going to take a gap year and allow me to homeschool her while we travel together to places she wouldn't otherwise get. So this is kind of grandpa heaven. So I guess in a way I'm not taking a sabbatical because I'm terrified. I don't want this to be a failure. This is important because it's very important she come back in the 10th grade. That's very important. That she'd be able to pass the competency exams. And I'm terrified about math. I used to be very good at math, but she's already way ahead of me. In any case, I want to thank all of you, but especially the students that came up to say that you'll miss me. I want to make it very clear, I'm not going any place. When I came to NYU in 1981, I knew it was the place I would be for my professional life. And I've been very fortunate to have wonderful years since 1981. Every year more fulfilling, more joyful than the previous. And when Andy takes over, I'm going to just move across the street to Kimmel, to the Student Life Center. And I'll be in a building where students will be all around. I'll be able to eat with them at lunch in the marketplace. I'll be able to spend much more time. I've always taught, as you know. I'll be able to teach a little more. I'll be able to go back to the law school and teach there, because I didn't want to teach there with the dean I had appointed. Now the dean will know, yes, he is my boss. I'll be the only faculty person that recognizes the fact that the dean is my boss. But the dean will have one sure vote at every faculty meeting other than his own. But in that case, I'm really looking forward to that, and it's actually going to give me more time with students. But I appreciate you saying that you'll miss me. We have a great future ahead of us. In closing, some of you, I've always given you NYU Wow points, and Bev gave you some. I'm not a big fan of rankings. I don't want to make as much of the rankings as she did. I would just, instead of invoking the rankings, say that the head of Oxford considered it a promotion to come to be the head of NYU. I think that's all we have to say. But many times I've given you these elevator things to deal with, and I'm virtually certain, I'm not 100% certain of what I'm about to say. It'll be fact-checked by Deborah Lamort, and a corrective will be sent out by her if I'm wrong on this. But many times, I've told you about our sizzling students and and our extraordinary faculty that attracts them. And the one that I like the best is that NYU is, and I've been saying this now for several years, NYU is the only university in the history of the world, the only university in the history of the world to have faculty members, a faculty member, 3 different ones, in the same year win a Nobel Prize, a Pulitzer Prize, and a Tony. It's the Tony that gets Harvard and Princeton. Yeah. Hats off to Tish Allison. Now I can ask the good dean, did any of our people win a Tony this year? So we have a Tony winner this year? Oh, we don't know yet, but we have nominees. If we win a Tony this year, we will have done it again, because we've already this year won the Nobel and the Pulitzer. So you better deliver. You better deliver. With that, ladies and gentlemen, I'll just close with this to every single one of you in the room. We honor 5 people today. We're going to begin with this extraordinary woman, Ruth. Okay? I wrote my doctoral dissertation quite by coincidence. I wrote about him as a Unitarian, not as a college president. But I wrote about Harvard's legendary president, Charles Eliot, who created the modern Harvard. He was president from 1869 to 1909, and then lived 18 more years. He was considered the first citizen of America. And what he said was, the secret of a great university is to admit talented students, graduate them, and claim credit for their achievements. And I want you, every one of you in the room, to understand that as sizzling hot as we are, faculty, students, and everybody else magnetized to us, we fully understand that the men and women in this room who came here the way Ruth did, when we didn't have a lot of the advantages we have today, and they just had their brains and dedicated teachers and classmates who would work with them. And they went out and they created the roads that we walk. They created the platforms on which we stand. So we will never forget the fact, that every dream we dream today, we dream because of you. We will run our leg of the relay race as well as we can. What we want you to do is make sure that these students who are today's dreamers are able to fulfill their dreams. Help us do that for them. And if every leg of the relay race is run with that NYU attitude of being a little bit better tomorrow than we were yesterday and never being satisfied, we got a great century ahead of us. And when this century is ended, forget about rankings. Everybody will know NYU stands for the highest of human excellence in the cause of the good, in the cause of society. And we will have done great things as a community. God bless you all. Thank you very much.
Our first award this afternoon is the first Eugene Keogh Award for today. And this is an award for distinguished public service. This award is conferred upon a respected and distinguished public figure of recognized stature who has clearly demonstrated outstanding public service in her professional, vocational, social, and cultural endeavor, and who brings honor to the university. We have an incredible honoree receiving this award today. You know, the Talmud, the Jewish book of wisdom, tells us that if you save one life, you save the whole world. Well, Ruth Gruber has saved the whole world over 1,000 times. I'd like you to watch some footage from a video ahead of time, The Extraordinary Journey of Ruth Gruber, and you'll be receiving the entire video as a gift as you exit today. Please watch the film before we award Ruth Gruber the Eugene Keogh Award.
I've been thinking a lot about Dr. Gruber's life, and it's thrilling that it has been as long and as storied and as spectacular and as committed to self-sacrifice and values for others as it has been. She had extraordinary courage, and we think about courage in three ways: that she had an intellectual courage that led her from Brooklyn all the way to Cologne, Germany, in a time of intense danger. She clearly had physical courage. She put herself in circumstances where she could have been captured, killed, tortured even by the Nazi regime. And clearly she had extraordinary moral courage, of a kind that would not allow her to witness in silence, that would not allow her to have any story that should be told fall into silence. She understood that in order for people to need to change the world, to see when there was injustice, you had to have a clear story told clearly. And that value for truth and for the right word and the right image is something any student should learn today.
I was always restless. I had to get away. I had to get out of Brooklyn. They were squeezing me. My father, he'd say, "You have to have a career." I said, "I want to be a writer." What kind of career is that for a nice Jewish girl?
Ruth Gruber is a writer and a lecturer and is the youngest PhD in the world and is quite good looking.
I was a rebellious kid. I wanted to encompass the whole world. I wanted to know what everything was like. So that really set my whole course. I was a foreign correspondent for the New York Herald Tribune. Hitler was coming into power, and I pretended I was a German citizen, and I sat the closest to Hitler's podium. His voice was something I will never, ever forget. You took pictures, you carried a camera. I demand the camera and I demand the pictures. I realized what these people had gone through, and I knew that I had to get their stories. My editor said, "These pictures, they don't belong to you. They belong to the world."
Ruth Gruber is joined by Willie Long, Associate Dean of the College of Arts and Science. Please join me in congratulating Ruth Gruber.
Let me read the citation. All right, I'm going to read the citation with which you're presenting her, in addition to your obvious love for her. In your more than 100 years of life, you have unequivocally proven that one person truly can make a difference. Since earning unprecedented educational accolades at the age of 20, you have continuously impressed the world with your bold spirit and courageous commitment to truth. In your career as a journalist, your masterful storytelling and pervasive images revealed the farthest corners of the earth and some of the darkest atrocities of mankind. You were a trusted advisor to our nation's leader, a guiding conscience for your fellow citizens, and a beacon of hope for those whose stories you shared with the world. Your role in some of the most iconic events of the 20th century has had an indelible impact on world affairs. In recognition of these historic accomplishments, your dedication, and your passion for public service, this award is presented with the grateful appreciation and pride of your fellow graduates and members of the NYU community. Congratulations, Ruth.
On behalf of Ruth Gruber, I just want to thank NYU. You didn't get to hear from her today, but when each one of you leave, you'll receive the documentary ahead of time, The Extraordinary Journey of Ruth Gruber, and you'll be very proud to be an NYU alum or trustee or dean when you see the movie about Ruth and what an NYU girl from Brooklyn turns out to be. Thank you.
You want me to do it? So now for study and contrasts, I turn it back to Bev and we go to another reporter who graduated from NYU 85 years later.
Indeed. Our next award is the Distinguished Young Alumna Award, so we have bookends. This award is presented to an outstanding graduate of NYU who is under the age of 35 and has demonstrated sustained excellence in her professional, vocational, social, and cultural endeavors, and who deserves acknowledgement as embodying the spirit of distinction that brings pride to the university. We've put together a short video of each of our honorees today. This is the video of the founder of the Global Press Institute, Christy Marie Hagrenis. Christy.
I went to Nepal in the final semester of my graduate work at NYU, and it turned out to be one of the most transformational opportunities in my life because when I was in my last semester, I got an independent study approved to go and do a reporting project in Nepal. And that is where the idea for Global Press Institute came to be, and so turned out to be the opportunity that has shaped the rest of my life. Global Press Institute is an international social enterprise that has trained and employed more than 150 women across 27 developing media markets to be professional journalists.
Christy has tapped into something that is an essential truth that we know about development and growth in developing countries. And if you talk to experts in the field, they will tell you that one of the most important resources in developing countries is their women.
Other than importing outsiders in to tell stories, what we do is we provide real professional, ethical journalism training for local people in the community so they can tell fuller, more context-rich stories.
I think Christy is an example of a kind of student we have here at NYU, we're lucky to have at NYU, who want to change the world in a positive way. Like a lot of our students, she had a vision of the importance of women's voices and getting expression to women and what that would mean for development in developing countries.
Being an NYU alumni is definitely a group that I am very proud to be among. Over the course of the last 9 years since I left NYU and founded GPI, members of the NYU alumni community, my former professors have all been just incredibly supportive of GPI and really helpful in so many ways. So it's been an honor.
She's an example for our students. She's an example of somebody they aspire to be, someone who is changing the world.
Christy is escorted to the stage by Lauren Benton, Dean of the Graduate School of Arts and Science.
And let me read the citation. An award-winning reporter, an innovative social entrepreneur, and a compassionate humanitarian, you have created a practical yet revolutionary solution to the sourcing of ethical and authentic journalism. As a young journalist, earning coveted career accolades, you selflessly diverted your own success in favor of a greater cause. Through the Global Press Institute and the Global Press Journal, you have challenged mainstream media conventions and restored integrity to the coverage of international news. With the utmost respect for your craft and the validation of your fellow world citizens, you have empowered individuals and revitalized whole communities by offering a global perspective, a compelling purpose, and economic opportunity. In recognition of your tireless dedication to helping others and your commitment to compelling and responsible journalism, this award is presented with deep respect and admiration from the fellow members of the NYU community. Congratulations, Christy.
Thank you so much. I can't tell you what an honor it is to be back here at NYU today. As the video mentioned, I was in my final semester of my grad work when my professor and advisor, Carol Sternhill, who's here today, approved an independent study for me to go to Nepal. And it truly was the foundational and transformational moment of my life when I realized that my dream job, to travel the world telling stories, I was actually not the right person for that job. It was the local people, the local women in particular, who were best suited to really tell the true stories of their communities to each other, but also to the world. If it was just me, having worked as a journalist for the last 9 years, I would have been able to produce maybe a few great stories. But together with the women of Global Press Institute, who are some of the bravest, boldest, most incredible human beings on earth, we've produced more than 100,000 pieces of investigative journalism about the world's developing communities. I'm so thrilled that you got to see some of their faces in the video today because they are truly the lifeblood of Global Press Institute that makes this work. So thank you to the entire NYU community. My peers and professors helped so much to get me on this path, and the entire NYU community has been absolutely supportive for me for this journey along the way. So thank you so much.
We are honored today to have two exceptional recipients of the Alumni Association's Distinguished Alumnus Award. This award is conferred upon a respected and distinguished graduate over the age of 35 who has demonstrated extraordinary achievement and/or service in professional, vocational, social, cultural endeavors, and who deserves acknowledgement as embodying the spirit of distinction that brings pride to the university. Our first honoree in this category is Food Network host Ted Allen.
To this day, when I'm asked my occupation on a form, I still write writer. I don't know what else to write. I'm not going to write TV personality. That's a lousy title. I wish I could write aerialist or wigmaster, but I can't do either of those things.
Ted Allen is funny, he's entertaining, he's witty. What people might not realize about him is that his ability to be entertaining is rooted in his intelligence and in his training.
I think my experience in NYU's journalism program, first of all, taught me the importance of fundamentals and thinking of yourself as a serious reporter and getting the facts and presenting them in a stylish and entertaining way. But I think also it opened my eyes to the notion that there's no such thing as a linear career anymore. There's no major that necessarily prepares you for the hoax that passes for my career. The thing I'm the most proud of when it comes to Queer Eye is we never set out to be important people or activists. But at the time, there had never been a show with 5 openly gay people being themselves on the show. And what I'm proudest of when it comes to Queer Eye is the hundreds, the thousands of letters that we got from gay kids who told us, your show has opened my parents' eyes to how decent and kind and helpful and useful and not always decent gay people can be. And it made it possible for us to start a conversation where those kids were able to be themselves. That's pretty cool.
Ted Allen comes out of a tradition of people at NYU who've made a real difference in contributing to movements to change people's consciousness in America about gay rights. He is a fantastic role model for our students because he is someone who has brought together so many parts of his background and training and knowledge and ability and integrated them in the many facets of his professional life.
The fact that I had the privilege of attending NYU is an enormous gift. I hope only that NYU isn't disappointed with me for ending up in culinary television, but I will tell you that basic underpinning of understanding science, and there's a lot of science in food, and there's a ton of writing in television, and I utilize all those skills almost every day, and this is where I learned to do that.
Escorting Ted Allen to the stage once again is Laura Benton of the Graduate School of Arts and Sciences. It's really an Arts and Sciences Day.
Sure. But I'm going to read. But before you speak, the president of the university. It's, you know, I know I don't have an English accent or anything like that, but you're right. Yeah. So it's not official until I read this. Your sincerity, warmth, and passion for food and life make you a welcome guest in the homes of audiences across America. A talented entertainer and culinary expert, you nourish the bodies, the minds, and the spirits of your viewers with an appreciation for the integral role that food plays in our lives. That appreciation translates to your charitable work, where you dedicate your time and energy to organizations working to eradicate hunger and address food insecurity. As a journalist and an author, you captivate readers with your candor, your insight, and your enthusiasm. From recipes that bring us together to pieces that educate and inspire us. Your creativity and intelligence have left a lasting impression on the American palate and spirit. In recognition of your countless professional achievements, the joy you bring to your audiences, and your extensive altruistic efforts, this award is presented with deep respect and admiration from all of the NYU community. Congratulations, Tim.
I've ruined everything again. Despite President Sexton's, despite John's incredibly kind introduction, I am very much the lightweight on this stage today. I'm a game show host. Although I deeply love my job and I love all the people involved. I'm very moved by the first 2 honorees, and I'm incredibly moved. I would like to congratulate my colleague Anthony Porowski for perpetrating a very nice surprise on me today and delivering some friends, some of whom I haven't seen in 20-something years. Classmates from SERP 7, ladies and gentlemen. SERP 7. We used manual typewriters, people, literally. I'm not kidding. I would also like to thank Anthony for producing 3 of my beloved Chopped colleagues, Mark Murphy, Amanda Freitag, and Vivian Sorensen, who are some of my dearest friends and colleagues, and we've spent some long, crazy days together making the show that we love and that we're privileged to be able to make. When I signed up for the Science and Environmental Reporting Program, which we affectionately referred to with the elegant title SERP, They've since added health to that program, so now it's called the much more elegant SHERP. SHERP. We were SERP 7. Today I believe they're in SERP 32 or so. This program was created by Bill Burrows, who we refer to as Mother. And I signed up for this program because I was inspired to get into journalism by NPR. Their long-form, beautiful coverage of important stories, often about the environment, often about food. And I just wanted to add a little something extra to my journalism master's, so I chose this program and just reveled in it so much. And if you think about 1988, nobody was talking about climate change or global warming. We did not have a Congress, half of which refuses to acknowledge the obvious fact of evolution, which we have today. It seems like a rather prescient idea, the idea of improving science journalism, doesn't it? So, to Professor Burrows, to Mother, I'd like to present a toast. I also want to say that John is clearly the most engaging university president I've ever had the pleasure of listening to speak. Thank you, sir. I have now, through this extraordinary series of good luck that I've enjoyed, I now have lived in New York for 13 years. I can't imagine living anyplace else. I actually possess a stoop. How you doing? I live in Brooklyn. Yo, forget about it. I love it. I am a New Yorker now, and I owe a lot of that experience to the incredible journey that I had at NYU, and that, by the way, when I still have. Most of us, when we graduate from a university, it becomes a foundation of our lives, but it also becomes really kind of a memory. Maybe you send a check once in a while. I still pinch myself every time I walk through the Village, and I still feel that I'm being pumped through the arteries of this university every time I walk through Washington Square Park. I think about this experience. It remains an enormous part of my life. And for that, and for this honor, I am profoundly grateful. Thank you. Yay! Oh, I forgot my bag.
So I thought for a second there when Ted said that he was the lightweight on the stage, he was referring to my stomach, which my kids refer to as Rufus. But I'm on a diet, and then I felt a little bit more secure. Back to you.
Our second recipient of the Distinguished Alumnus Award is investment pioneer, and before I bring him up on stage, you'll watch the video of Martin Cohn.
Well, Marty was a student in 1976. The MBA program was not up here at Washington Square Park. It was downtown at Trinity Place on Wall Street. And Marty was, like many of our students, working full-time and had a dream of transforming his career.
I always had interest in math and biology and chemistry. And so that's what I majored in. And I did that for 5 years, during which time I felt that my interests were kind of leaning towards the business world. So I applied to NYU, got in.
Marty's a scientist, came to GBA, met a legendary Stern finance professor named Marty Gruber. So Marty and Marty, as it were, were able to put Marty Cohen on a trajectory that led him to go from being a scientist to being somebody who in 1986 would found the very first mutual fund securities company in the space of real estate.
Having graduated from NYU at the time, it gave me the credentials to pursue a career in business. And learning how to synthesize a problem, looking at the critical variables, and articulating them was something I learned in the non-quantitative courses at NYU. And that helped me in my financial career going forward.
Marty's career in real estate is, of course, reflective of the intellectual excitement that drives people's ability to create their own businesses, lead within existing organizations, or imagine new spaces, as in the case of Marty Cohen, and mutual funds and real estate securities that can really deliver opportunities for both business and society. It's all about something that creates value for the world.
I'm very proud to be an NYU person, and being at the business school when it was just a small part of this university, and to see through philanthropy, through commitment, to see it become one of the greatest business schools. It really is. I'm not sure I could get in right now if I was if I was applying, but I'm sure proud that it's become really so well regarded and so sought after as a school for young people.
Escorted by Peter Henry, Dean of the Leonard N. Stern School of Business, I am pleased to invite Martin Cohn to the stage.
The citation. As co-founder and executive chairman of one of the first and most successful real estate investment firms in the world, you have proven to be a visionary entrepreneur and an insightful economic expert. Your patience and persistence in educating investors and consultants has earned you the confidence of clients who trust you with their livelihoods. Persevering through times of great economic turmoil and uncertainty, you represent the very best of what a businessman can be: innovative, resourceful, and trustworthy. Despite the demands of your career, you are a committed philanthropist. Your generosity to New York City's educational, professional, and cultural institutions is extraordinary and exemplifies your true spirit of service. In recognition of your countless professional accomplishments and the enduring impact of your contributions, this award is given with deep respect and admiration from the NYU community. Congratulations, Marty.
Thank you, John. I'm so honored to receive this award, and I must say very humbled to be in the presence of my fellow awardees who've saved lives, improved lives, and entertained and enriched lives. So it is a wonderful pleasure for me to be here today. When you think about the good old days, most people don't think 1974. Just think, the country was in the midst of a deep recession. We were suffering from raging inflation. We had an oil embargo, an unpopular war that we were getting over, a massive crisis in government, and also, I will recall, New York City was about on the verge of bankruptcy. Things couldn't have been worse, and that's when I entered NYU Business School, now called Stern. And I look back at these days as some of the best of my life and some of the most important of my life. I started out with just a vague idea of what I wanted to ultimately pursue, but I knew that I had a great deal of ambition and curiosity about the world of business. I graduated 2 years later with a passion for finance and investment, and most importantly, the skills and confidence to pursue it as a career. It was not an easy transition from science to business, but it surely helped being immersed with great faculty, great mentors, and fellow students that were as driven as I would become. I must say it was also helpful, as Dean Henry said, to be located in the financial district, which is the world's financial center. I will also say that in my career, beginning in that dark period of our economic history, that out of chaos comes opportunity. And out of that chaos of that period came opportunity that I was able to recognize and pursue my career. Finding and pursuing one's passion is what we wish for all of our younger and also many of our older generations. I would not be receiving this award had NYU not afforded me that opportunity. And for that, I will always be grateful. Thank you very much.
Our last award this afternoon is also the Eugene Keogh Award for Distinguished Public Service. This award is conferred upon a respected and distinguished public figure of recognized stature. And the award for outstanding public service in her profession, vocation, all of her social and cultural endeavors goes to the Chancellor of the New York City Public Schools, the largest public school district in the United States. It is with real pleasure that I ask you to watch this video on Carmen Guillen Fariña.
I am part of an immigrant family, the first one in my family to go to college. And in high school, up until junior year, as much as I always wanted to be a teacher, I didn't think there'd be an opportunity to go to college. Many women did not go to college. My father was a firm believer in education, and as a result, he took full advantage. He had worked at NYU Hospital. And one of the perks of working at NYU Hospital is that your children could apply for scholarships. So I did. And I got into NYU in a 4-year scholarship. So I feel I got the best possible education.
Carmen is a 40-year veteran of the New York City schools. After earning her degree at NYU Steinhardt, she started as a teacher in working-class Brooklyn and has risen all the way through the system from principal to become the leader of the nation's biggest school system, which is truly a remarkable achievement.
NYU was a big awakening for me, and I know one of the courses I took, the core curriculum, which was an aesthetics course, exposed me to art, and to this day I still remember the professor showing slides and Eugene Delacroix's painting being the first thing I saw, which prompted me to go to museums, and I hadn't been to a museum before my first year of college. I think at the time that I went to NYU, I probably did not appreciate as much as I do now the depth of work that we were doing in teaching, because teaching in those days was considered something you did until you got married or you got tenure and you stopped working. Having been one of those women in the 60s who made this a lifelong career, I think it was really different in that I really feel I learned skills that I could use everywhere. Certainly the experience of having to start working with kids in your freshman year was something that stood me in good stead when I became a classroom teacher.
NYU Steinhardt is very proud of our partnership with the school district, and since 2006 we've dramatically grown the number of partner schools that we work with. Under Carmen's leadership, that partnership will continue to grow.
To me, NYU gave me an opportunity that I never would have had. If it had not been for that scholarship, I'm not sure where I would have been today. And for my father, the proudest moment of his life was when I graduated NYU. My father couldn't stop beaming. He declared a national holiday at his place of work, took off the whole day, although he didn't have to. And it was like the first one in my family to go to college, and I set the road. And both my sister and brother went to NYU as well.
She started her educational journey right here in Washington Square and has gone on to an amazing, distinguished career serving the students of New York City.
To me, it was a gift, and it was a gift that allowed me to be who I am today, so I'm very appreciative.
Escorting Carmen Fariña to the stage is my good friend, Dean Dominic Brewer of the Steinhardt School.
So I have to read this official citation to one of my heroes. In your 5-decade career, you have proven to be a resilient and trusted educator and an ambassador for New York City's students, parents, and teachers. Your selection by Mayor Bill de Blasio, an NYU graduate, that's not on the citation, to lead the nation's largest school district, and the admiration and respect you've earned during your transformational tenure are a testament to your emphasis on collaboration and enthusiasm for innovation. The years you've spent working tirelessly in our classrooms and schools have made you an enlightened advocate, uniquely qualified to cultivate student achievement and restore due dignity to the noble work of our educators. With you at the helm, the future looks bright for the city's 1.1 million public school students. In recognition of your remarkable accomplishments, dedication to children, families, and educators, and passion for public service, this award is presented with grateful appreciation and pride by the members of the NYU community. Congratulations.
Thank you, John. One of the most interesting things so far today is how many of us come from Brooklyn. And I can say there is something in the water, and we discovered it way before the gentrifiers did. So I'm very proud to be there. I want to sort of reiterate what you saw on the video, that I think one of the things that leaders do is they lead by example. But more important, who we are as leaders is who we were before we became leaders. And the fact that I started school as a non-English speaking student, that I was a child of immigrants, and quite often life was not easy, that also that it was very important in my personal heritage. My father was a major proponent of social studies around the dining room table and current events, so I learned about the world at a time, I'm talking about in the 50s, where you didn't discuss certain things, but in my house you did. And then you were encouraged, besides discussing it, to go out and argue it with your teachers. And as a side note, I should say that I went to parochial school, so that was not always very much favored upon. So it was also a time when I knew I always wanted to be a teacher. There was nothing else I ever wanted to be. And yet I never thought I'd get to go to college. And it was only when I got to high school that one teacher took an interest in me and said, do you know there's such a thing as scholarships? And I didn't. And it was her interest, and then that my father worked for NYU Hospital for over 40 years, that all these things came together, and I applied for a scholarship, and then I got to NYU. And to me, that's the dream I want for 1.1 million children in New York City. For me to be able to have that, I don't see that any other child shouldn't have the same path. But that's not something I can do by myself. I need everyone in this room and beyond. I was networking this morning to try to figure out how many people here could help me in this mission. So I take volunteers. But I think also NYU offered several things to me, and I meant what I said in the video that I don't think I appreciated at the time. First of all, it gave me friendships that I have to this day. And by the way, I graduated 50 years ago, so having friends for 50 years is not the easiest thing in the world, but I'm really appreciative for that. I took courses that were not part of education courses, and I'm a firm believer that education courses, when only in theory, do not prepare you for teaching. Teachers need to be smart about content areas, and I had something called core courses. I don't even know if they do that anymore, John. But those core courses, I remember one on Walter Lippmann, communications. I know I took one on mythology. There were things that were open to me that I took back into my classrooms when I became a teacher. And that's what teaching has to be. It has to continue to be exciting. It has to bring new ideas to the table. And that was something NYU taught me. The first time I took that arts appreciation course, I couldn't get fast enough to the museums, and to this day, I'm one of the biggest proponents of arts education in our schools, and I also want it for all our kids. The arts make you a whole person, and we need to do that. And we need to do it for all kids, not just for kids who I love dearly. I was a principal on the Upper East Side, PS6. Those kids had as a matter of birth, I want for all kids in the city of New York. And that's what we must do. So I am honored, and I have to say thank you to all the people who surprised me here today. I have a wonderful support group, because all of us who reached my age and grew up at a time when women were supposed to just be limited in their expectations, I have the most wonderful group of women friends anyone can imagine. So thank you for all of you and the people who support me every day at work. But I cannot do this job, and my heart drops a little bit when I hear 1.1 million. But the world is watching us, and it's watching all of us. This needs the business community, the politicians, and everyone to help me. So I'm honored, and thank you, and it's a pleasure to have been here today.
Thank you, Carmen, Ruth, Martin, Ted, and Christy, for being with us today, for sharing your passions with us, and for bringing us together to celebrate the best of NYU. Please join John and me in a round of applause one more time for these outstanding alumni. It certainly has been a privilege to help pay tribute to these incredible honorees, to the five of you that let me say that NYU takes great pride in your accomplishments, and we are fortunate to count you as members of the NYU community. I would also like to thank the group of people that make this all happen, and that is our very talented alumni relations staff who have helped plan the event today. Singing is a long-standing tradition among NYU students, actually since the 19th century. Today, we have a cappella, jazz, and choral singing. We didn't have jazz in the 19th century. But today, those all continue to thrive and engage students across the university, at Washington Square, and our campuses around the world. In 1873, 17 students formed the first all-male NYU Glee Club. And today, 20 students from around the university are here to celebrate this special occasion with us and to give us a taste of their splendid voices by singing the NYU fight song, followed by our alma mater, the Palisades. So as we prepare to conclude this afternoon, I'd like to offer all of you this treat. And I'd also like you to refer to the back of your program where you're going to find the lyrics to the Palisades, just in case you never memorized them. I invite the Men's Glee Club to join us on the stage, and I want to personally thank you again for being here with us today and to extend a wonderful afternoon to all of you. Thank you.
Good afternoon. Our first song will be If You Want to Go to College.
If you want to go to college, just come along with me. Neath the shades of the old Palisades. This dear old college is just the place for me. Neath the shades of the old Palisades. Neath the old Palisades, neath the old Palisades. Neath the shades of the old Palisades. Neath the old Palisades, neath the old Palisades. Neath the shades of the old Palisades. Oh, stately square that lies before us, these stony portals straight and strong, the birthplace of our alma mater, will ever praise in splendid song. The archway ever stands triumphant, protecting all we seek to do. With thee forever our inspiration, oh honored NYU. No happier lot could e'er befall us, no boon we crave of greater worth than here to gather in the glory bound so staunch and true.